I never thought the sound of a slap could break something inside you. But that day, it did. The room went silent, except for that awful ringing in my ears. My cheek burned like fire. And when I looked up, there she was, my daughter-in-law, Tanya, standing over me with her hand still raised, eyes cold, chest heaving. She didn't even flinch. Didn't say sorry. Didn't even look ashamed. Instead, she said it. "Give me the house keys, Loretta. Right now." For a second, I thought I heard her wrong. My own daughter-in-law, demanding the keys to my house. The house I built with my late husband. The home where I raised my son. The place filled with memories of laughter, Sunday dinners, and gospel music playing in the kitchen. But she wasn't joking. She wanted me gone. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. My son Marcus stood there too, silent. Not a word, not a step toward me. Just stood between us like a stranger. And that silence hurt worse than the slap. Now, before I tell you what happened next, let me introduce myself. My name's Loretta Mae Henderson, 58 years old, born and raised in Macon, Georgia. I'm a retired school secretary, proud mother, and a woman who believes family is sacred, that respect is something you don't play with. But that day, respect walked right out my front door. If you're listening to this right now, please don't go anywhere. Like, subscribe, and share, because what I'm about to tell you ain't just another family story. It's about how love can turn into something dark, and how silence can destroy everything you built. Now, where was I? Oh yes, that moment. After she hit me, I just stood there with my hand on my cheek, trying to stop my tears from falling. Tanya looked at me like I was the help, like I didn't belong in my own house. And Marcus, he finally whispered, "Ma, just give her the keys." That's when my knees almost buckled. I looked at my boy, the same boy I carried for 9 months, the same one who used to hold my hand when he was scared of thunderstorms, and I didn't recognize him anymore. His eyes weren't soft like they used to be. They were tired, distant, controlled. And that's when I knew something had been brewing long before that slap. Because a moment like that doesn't come out of nowhere. It grows, slowly, quietly, behind closed doors and whispered conversations. But let me take you back. Before the shouting. Before the slap. Before I realized just how much a mother's love could be twisted against her. It all started the first day I met Tanya. Back then, she smiled so sweet, calling me Mama Henderson like she really meant it. I thought, Lord, my boy finally found someone who'll love him like I do. I didn't see the warning signs. Didn't notice the way she watched me, how her smile never quite reached her eyes. I just wanted peace. Every mother does, right? We raise our kids hoping they'll grow up and build a life better than ours. So when Marcus brought her home, I opened my arms wide and said, "Baby, welcome to the family." If only I knew then what that welcome would cost me. Because over time, the girl I thought was sweet started showing another side, a side that didn't like being told no, didn't like sharing space, and sure didn't like me having a say in anything. At first, it was small things. A look. A sigh. A comment that felt more like a jab wrapped in sugar. Like when I cooked Sunday dinner, she'd smile and say, "Oh, that's old-fashioned, Mama Loretta. Marcus likes things a little healthier now." And my boy would nod along, not realizing she was slicing away at my place in his heart, one little cut at a time. But I let it slide. Because that's what mothers do. We bite our tongues. We keep the peace. Even when peace is one-sided. Still, I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling every time she looked at me, like she was measuring something, planning something. And now, standing in that same living room months later, feeling my cheek burn and hearing her demand the keys to my own home, I realized that plan had finally come to life. That slap wasn't just anger. It was power. It was her way of saying, "This is mine now." And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just about a house. It was about control. So I straightened my back, swallowed my tears, and looked her dead in the eye. I said, "You can take a lot from me, Tanya. But you ain't taking my dignity." She smirked, that cold, heartless smirk I'll never forget, and whispered, "Oh, you'll give it to me. Sooner or later." I didn't answer her. I just turned to Marcus. But he couldn't even meet my eyes. That silence said it all. And right then, I understood something that broke my heart all over again. The slap wasn't the start of my pain. It was the ending of all the warnings I ignored. But what led us to that moment? What turned my loving son into a stranger in his own home? Well, you'll see. Because the truth didn't start with that slap. It started the very first day she walked into my house. And that's where my story truly begins. It was a bright Saturday morning when Marcus first brought her home. The kind of morning that smells like coffee and biscuits and peace. I was standing by the kitchen window, watering my little row of plants, humming along to All Green, when I heard his voice call out from the front porch. "Ma, you home?" I smiled without turning around. Boy, where else I'm gonna be on a Saturday morning? Then I heard another voice. Soft. Polite. Careful. "Hi, Mrs. Henderson. I'm Tanya." I turned, and there she stood, tall, pretty, well put together. She had this kind of beauty that was quiet but sharp, like a rose with thorns. And the way she looked at me, with that practiced smile and eyes that didn't blink too long. Something about it made me pause. But I pushed the thought away. Because that's what mamas do when their children bring someone home. We see what we want to see. I wiped my hands on a towel, walked over, and opened my arms wide. "Well, come on in, baby. Don't just stand out there in the sun. Marcus, you can let her melt." She laughed, a light, careful laugh, and stepped inside. Her perfume was strong, floral, maybe a little too fancy for a simple visit. But she hugged me, soft but stiff, like somebody following directions. We sat down in the living room. I poured some sweet tea, and Marcus beamed the way only a man in love can. He couldn't stop staring at her. "Ma," he said proudly, "this is Tanya. The one I've been telling you about." I smiled and nodded. "I see why, baby. She's beautiful." Tanya gave a polite smile, hands folded on her lap. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. You've raised such a kind man." Now, that should have warmed my heart. But there was something in her tone. Something rehearsed. Still, I told myself, "Loretta, stop overthinking. She's nervous. Give her a chance." So I did. We talked for a while, or maybe I talked and she listened. I told her about Marcus as a baby, how he used to cry every time I left for work, how he once broke his arm trying to climb the pecan tree in the yard. She smiled at the right parts, nodded when I looked her way, but I noticed her glancing at her phone every few minutes. After a while, she said, "Mrs. Henderson, I really like your house. It's classic. Kinda old school." I laughed. "That's another word for old, huh?" She chuckled politely but didn't deny it. Just looked around like she was taking mental notes. Later that evening, after they left, I sat on the couch for a while, staring at the spot where she'd been sitting. Something about her lingered, not her perfume, not her laugh, but her energy. It was like the air had changed, just a little colder. But love blinds you. And when Marcus called a week later and said, "Ma, I'm thinking about proposing," I didn't hesitate. I said, "If she makes you happy, baby, that's all I care about." Because that's what mamas do. We put our children's happiness before our doubts. The wedding came quick, too quick, maybe. I helped as much as I could, paid for the flowers, the cake, even her dress alterations. And every time I tried to get close, she'd smile, thank me sweetly, and slide right back out of reach. There was this one moment, 2 days before the wedding. I was sitting in the kitchen ironing some napkins, and Tanya walked in. She leaned against the counter, watching me, sipping from her water bottle. "You know," she said softly, "Marcus really loves you. He talks about you all the time." I smiled. "That's my boy. He's always been a mama's baby." Her smile faded just a little. "Well, I hope he's ready to start a new life now. You know, make his own decisions." Her words were light, but her meaning cut deep. And when I looked up, her eyes weren't kind. They were challenging. Testing me. But before I could say anything, she laughed lightly and said, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that, Mrs. Henderson. You've done such a great job raising him." Then she walked away, leaving that chill behind her. I should have trusted that moment. I should have paid attention to the way her compliments came with little knives hidden underneath. But instead, I told myself she was just adjusting, just nervous about joining a new family. When they came back from their honeymoon, Tanya hugged me again, and I noticed how she didn't call me Mama Loretta anymore. Now it was just Loretta. No warmth. No love. Just my name. And Marcus didn't notice. He was too busy making sure Tanya was happy. That first month, she'd visit now and then, bringing him lunch, helping out around the house. But slowly, she started changing things. Moving furniture around without asking. Throwing out old pictures that didn't match the decor. Even told me once, "You don't really need all those old dishes, do you?" I laughed it off, but deep down, I felt her pushing me out of my own space, not physically yet, but piece by piece. Then one evening, Marcus called and said, "Ma, Tanya's job's been tough lately. She's thinking of taking some time off. Maybe stay with you a while to save money." My heart sank a little, but I smiled through the phone. Of course, baby. My door's always open. And just like that, the house that once held peace, laughter, and memories was about to become a battlefield I didn't see coming. Because the day she moved in was the day I started losing pieces of myself. The day Tanya moved in, the house didn't feel like my house anymore. It's strange how one person can walk through your front door and shift the air. Like a new scent, or a new rhythm, one that don't fit the song you've been singing for years. She came in with 3 suitcases, a duffel bag, and that same polite smile. Marcus carried most of her things up to the guest room, the one with the soft yellow curtains and the old quilt I made back when times were simple. When I offered to help, Tanya waved me off. "Oh, no, Mrs. Henderson, I've got it all under control." She said it so sweetly that it almost didn't sting. Almost. That first week, I tried. Lord knows, I tried. I cooked breakfast like always, made her coffee the way Marcus liked, 2 sugars, 1 cream, and even ironed the shirts she left in the dryer. But Tanya had a way of turning every kindness into a correction. "Mrs. Henderson, you really don't have to do that," she'd say with that smile that never reached her eyes. Or, "That's okay, I like to cook differently, less salt." I'd nod and step back, feeling smaller each time. One evening, I heard her humming in the kitchen, my kitchen, while Marcus laughed beside her. They were making dinner together, moving around like a couple in love. I should have been happy, but I felt like a guest in my own home. Then came the little changes. The curtains I loved. Replaced. My family photos on the wall. Rearranged, some quietly taken down. She bought new plates, white ones, said they matched better. I just watched and said nothing. Because sometimes silence is the only way to keep peace. But peace don't last long when someone's trying to erase you gently. One night, I was in my room reading when I heard them in the living room. Marcus's voice was soft but tired. "Tanya, baby, can you please just let it go? Mama's trying." Tanya sighed, low and sharp. "Marcus, I'm trying too, but she treats me like a stranger. I'm doing everything I can to fit in, but it's like she doesn't want me here." I froze. My chest tightened. It wasn't true. I'd been walking on eggshells for her comfort. But I stayed quiet, listening. Marcus said, she's set in her ways, you know that." And then Tanya said something I'll never forget. "Well, maybe she needs to find new ways. She's not the only woman in your life anymore." My heart dropped. I didn't hear the rest. I just sat there, staring at the old photo on my nightstand, me and Marcus on his first day of school. His little hand gripping mine like he'd never let go. Now, I wondered if that hand was already slipping away. The next morning, I came into the kitchen and found Tanya making breakfast. She turned, smiling bright. "Good morning, Mrs. Henderson. I thought I'd give you a break today." A break. Like I was some old lady who couldn't stand on her own 2 feet. I smiled anyway. "Well, that's mighty kind of you, baby." But when I sat down, she said softly, "Marcus and I were talking. Maybe it's time you relax more. Stop worrying about the house, or cooking, or, everyday stuff. We've got it." That we cut deep. Like the house I built was no longer mine, but theirs. Later that week, Marcus came home late from work. He walked in, looking worn out, but before he could even hang his coat, Tanya started. "Marcus, your mother moved the couch again. I told you, I liked it better by the window." He sighed, rubbed his forehead, and looked at me. "Mama, did you?" I nodded. "Baby, I was vacuuming. I just moved it back where it's been for years." Tanya crossed her arms. "It's not just about the couch. It's about respect. You don't value change." I stared at her, words caught in my throat. Marcus stood between us, trying to keep peace, but I saw the shift, the way he glanced at her, then at me. The way love makes a man blind to wrong. After that night, things got worse. Tanya started locking the guest room door. Said she needed privacy. She began keeping track of groceries, labeling what she bought. I'd find notes on the fridge. "Please don't use this. This is for Marcus." It was her way of marking territory, quiet but cruel. I tried to talk to Marcus one night. We were sitting on the porch, the same porch I used to rock him to sleep on. "Baby," I said softly, "is everything all right? You happy?" He smiled tiredly. "Yeah, Ma. She's particular, you know?" I nodded. "I know. I just don't want her making you forget who you are." He laughed a little. "Nobody could make me forget that, Ma." But even as he said it, I could see he already was. A few days later, I was in the hallway when I heard Tanya on the phone. Her voice was low, sharp, not sweet like she sounded around Marcus. "No, it's fine. She'll leave eventually. I'll make sure of it." My heart started pounding. I leaned closer, holding my breath. "Yes," she said again. "Marcus will take my side. He always does." Then she hung up. I stood there frozen, the walls spinning around me. She wanted me gone. And she was winning. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there thinking about all the little changes, the quiet digs, the way Marcus smiled less when I spoke. It all made sense now. I wasn't losing my house. I was being pushed out of it, 1 inch at a time. The next morning, I made breakfast like normal, even though my hands were shaking. Tanya came in, cheerful as ever. "Morning, Mrs. Henderson," she said. I looked up at her, and for the first time, I didn't smile back. I said, "Morning, Tanya." Our eyes met, hers cold, mine steady. And in that silence, I knew. The real battle had just begun. It was a Wednesday night when I first heard the truth, quiet, cruel, and meant to break me. I was walking down the hallway to get a glass of water, the lights dim, my slippers barely making a sound. The TV in the living room hummed low, and I could hear Tanya's voice, soft but sharp, cutting through the stillness. "Marcus," she whispered, "your mama's controlling you." I stopped cold. "She means well," Marcus said, his tone tired, "but she's just old-fashioned." Tanya sighed loud enough for me to hear it from the hallway. "Old-fashioned?" "Marcus, she's manipulative. She treats you like a little boy. You're a grown man, with a wife. When are you gonna start living for yourself?" My hand trembled on the wall. Marcus didn't answer right away. That silence, Lord, that silence hurt worse than any words. Tanya kept going, her voice dripping with poison. "You know what she's really doing? She's keeping everything in her name, her house, her money, just so she can control you. But you deserve better than that, Marcus. You deserve what's yours." I pressed my hand to my mouth, holding back a cry. My son. My baby boy. The one I raised alone after his daddy died. And now this woman, she was twisting his love into shame. I turned back down the hall before I could hear more. The water could wait. The tears couldn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my bed, rocking slow, my mind replaying every moment since Tanya had entered our lives. Every smile, every thank you, every "don't worry, Mrs. Henderson." All of it, lies wrapped in lace. The next morning, Marcus came to the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Morning, Ma." "Morning, baby," I said, trying to sound normal. He sat down, scrolling through his phone. "Tanya said you seemed upset last night." I froze. "Upset? Yeah, he said, not looking at me. She thought maybe something was wrong. You know, since you went to bed early. I smiled, though it burned my cheeks. Ain't nothing wrong, baby. Just tired, that's all. He nodded, still scrolling, still gone. That's when I realized I wasn't just losing my home. I was losing my son's heart, one whisper at a time. Over the next few days, Tanya's words started showing in Marcus's actions. He'd question little things now. Ma, did you move my mail again? Ma, Tanya said you threw away her receipts. And when I'd deny it, he'd just sigh, like I was the one who couldn't be trusted. Tanya smiled through it all, sweet as pie in front of him, but her eyes told the truth. She was winning. I tried to talk to her one afternoon while Marcus was at work. I stood by the kitchen sink, my hands trembling on the edge. Tanya, I said softly, I don't know what's going on, but this tension, this ain't healthy. She looked up from her phone, smiling. Tension? Oh, Mrs. Henderson, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not what I said. She put the phone down, her smile fading. Look, I'm just trying to make this house comfortable for everyone. Maybe it's you who's struggling with the change. I swallowed hard. This house has been my home for 30 years. I built it with love. You walked in and started changing everything. Tanya leaned closer, her tone turning cold. And maybe it needed changing. For a second, we just stared at each other. Her smile came back, slow and poisonous. Then she walked out of the room like she owned it. That night, Marcus came home early. I could hear Tanya talking to him again in the living room, her voice soft, rehearsed. She snapped at me today, she said. I was just trying to help, but she gets defensive over everything. My heart sank. Marcus's voice came, quiet. Maybe she's just lonely. Lonely? Tanya said, laughing. She's jealous. She wants your attention all to herself. I pressed my ear to the door frame, my whole body shaking. Marcus, she whispered, she'll never stop unless we set boundaries. You said yourself, this house is too much for her to manage. Maybe it's time she steps back. Steps back. Yeah, she said sweetly. Maybe she signs the deed over. It's only fair. It'll still be her home, but it'll be ours, you know? I gasped. Marcus said nothing for a long moment. Then I heard him say, I don't know, Tanya. That's my mama. Tanya sighed. I know, baby. But if she really loves you, she'll trust you. And that's when I understood. She wasn't just trying to move me out. She was trying to take everything I had, down to the roof over my head. That night, I sat on my porch, watching the sky turn purple. I prayed for strength, for wisdom, for something to hold on to. I whispered, Lord, don't let me lose my son. The next morning, I went to Marcus's room. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, half dressed for work. Baby, I said softly, we need to talk. He looked up, weary. About what? About this house. About Tanya. About you. He sighed, rubbed his face. Ma, please, don't start. I stepped closer. I heard what she said last night. His head shot up. You were listening. Tears filled my eyes. Marcus, she wants me to sign over this house. You know that ain't right. He stood, angry now. She's not trying to hurt you. She just wants to feel secure. You're twisting everything she says. I shook my head. No, baby. She's twisting you. We stood there, staring at each other, mother and son, love against love. Tanya walked in, pretending to look surprised. Everything okay? Marcus turned away, grabbing his jacket. I'm late for work. And just like that, he left. Tanya turned to me, smiling faintly. You really shouldn't listen to private conversations, Mrs. Henderson. It makes you seem desperate. I didn't answer. I just looked at her, calm, broken, and quiet. Because I knew the truth now. This wasn't just tension. It was war. And I wasn't about to lose everything I'd built without a fight. Soft, natural CTA placement. If you're still listening to this story right now, go on and hit that like button, share it, and tell me in the comments, Have you ever trusted somebody who turned your own blood against you? I wanna hear your story too, 'cause what comes next, it's about to cut even deeper. There's a silence that comes before something terrible happens. It's not loud or messy, it's still, almost peaceful, like the air itself knows what's coming. That's the silence that filled my house that night. I was in my room folding laundry when I heard the drawer in my dresser slide open. At first, I thought I imagined it. But then came the sound of papers rustling. My heart stopped. I stood still, holding a towel to my chest, and listened. Someone was in my room. When I stepped into the hallway, the door to my bedroom was half open. Through the crack, I could see her, Tanya. She was standing by my dresser, her hands deep in my drawers, flipping through my old documents and jewelry boxes like she owned the place. For a moment, I just stood there frozen. Then something inside me snapped. "Tanya!" I shouted, my voice trembling. She jumped, spinning around like a thief caught red-handed. "Oh, Mrs. Henderson," she said, faking a smile, I was just looking for the spare checkbook." Marcus said. "Don't you lie to me," I cut her off. "You got no business in my drawers. Those are my private things." She rolled her eyes, closing the drawer slowly. "You're overreacting." I was just. Overreacting? I stepped forward, my hands shaking. "You've been undermining me since the day you moved in here. Talking about me behind my back, twisting Marcus's heart. Now you're in my bedroom stealing from me." Her face hardened. "Stealing? Please. Everything in this house will be ours one day anyway. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" My breath caught in my throat. "Ours?" The nerve of that girl. I took another step closer. "You don't talk to me like that in my house. You hear me?" She laughed, low and bitter. "Your house. You keep saying that like it means something. Marcus already told me, you're thinking about giving it to him eventually. So what difference does it make?" I felt my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "It makes all the difference, Tanya. Because while I'm still breathing, this is my home. Not yours." That's when Marcus walked in. He looked from me to Tanya, confused, holding a grocery bag. "What's going on?" I turned to him, trembling. "Your wife was in my drawers, Marcus. She's been going through my personal things." Tanya gasped like a bad actress. "That's not true. I was just looking for a checkbook." She came in yelling at me for no reason. Marcus frowned. "Ma, please, why would she steal from you? You're taking this too far." My mouth fell open. "Marcus, you think I'm lying?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I just think you're upset. Tanya's been trying." "Trying?" I cried out. "Trying to what? Take over my home? Turn you against me? Baby, open your eyes. She's manipulating you." Tanya's voice broke through, sharp as glass. "You see? This is what I mean, Marcus. She can't stand the fact that you're married now. She wants to control you forever." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My son, the baby I nursed, the boy I prayed over every night, stood there watching us like a stranger. Something inside me cracked. I turned to him, tears blurring my eyes. "Marcus, I have never tried to control you. I've only ever tried to love you. But this woman, she's tearing us apart." He looked away. And that silence, that heavy, awful silence, said everything. That's when Tanya smirked. Just a small smirk, but enough to make my blood boil. I pointed at her. "Don't you smile at me, you hear me? You're poison in this house." Her eyes went dark. "And maybe it's time that poison left," she said coldly. "What did you just say?" She stepped closer, her face inches from mine. "I said maybe it's time you left. You're old, bitter, and holding on to a house that should have been Marcus's years ago. Marcus tried to get between us. Stop, both of you." But I couldn't stop. "Not anymore. You think you can come in here, disrespect me, and take what I've worked for? You got another thing coming." Tanya's hand twitched. "You don't talk to me like that." "Or what?" I said, my voice breaking. And then, slap. The sound echoed through the house. My head jerked to the side, my cheek stinging. For a second, the world went quiet. Even the clock stopped ticking. Tanya's hand still hovered in the air, her eyes wide. Marcus stood there, stunned, the grocery bag slipping from his hand, apples rolling across the floor. I slowly turned my head back toward her. My cheek burned, but my heart hurt worse. I whispered, "You slapped me, in my own house." She didn't say a word. Neither did Marcus. Tears welled up in my eyes. I looked at my son, pleading silently. "You saw that, Marcus." She put her hands on me. He looked torn, frozen. His lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, he muttered, "Ma, please, just, let's calm down." "Calm down?" I took a step back, shaking. "You want me to calm down? After your wife hit me?" He dropped his head. "You provoked her." That was it. The knife. The betrayal that split me right down the middle. I laughed, not out of humor, but out of heartbreak. "I provoked her? My own son thinks I deserve this." Marcus said nothing. Tanya crossed her arms. I stared at them both, feeling the walls close in. "Get out of my room," I whispered. But Tanya didn't move. She lifted her chin and said, "You should start packing, Mrs. Henderson. Maybe it's time you gave Marcus the house keys." I couldn't breathe. That moment, that slap, that silence, that cold look in my son's eyes, it broke something in me that night. I realized I wasn't just fighting for my home anymore. I was fighting for my dignity. I walked past them both without another word. But as I reached the hallway, I heard Tanya whisper to Marcus, "See? She's losing it." I stopped but didn't turn around. Because deep down, I knew, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I'll never forget that morning. It felt like every ounce of patience inside me had burned to ashes overnight. The sun wasn't even up yet when I heard the front door slam. My heart jumped. My daughter-in-law, Jasmine, had come home from one of her late-night outings again. I was sitting on the couch, still wearing my robe, clutching a cup of tea that had long gone cold. My hands trembled, not from age, but from anger. The kind that sits in your chest for months, waiting for one more wrong word to explode. She stumbled in, heels clicking against the tile, phone in her hand, smiling like she had no care in the world. "Oh, look at you, still awake," she mocked, throwing her purse on the sofa like it was hers. I said quietly, "Jasmine, this isn't right. You can't keep doing this. You're a wife, a mother. This home needs peace." She scoffed. "Peace? Maybe if you stopped acting like you own everything, we'd have some peace." I stood up slowly, meeting her glare. "This is my home. Your husband and I built it. I've tried to treat you like my own daughter. But you..." Before I could finish, she stepped closer, her face twisting with something dark. "You what? You've done nothing but judge me since day one." I took a deep breath. "I've been quiet. I've prayed for you, defended you to my son. But tonight, Jasmine, you came home drunk, again, while your baby's upstairs crying for you. That was the breaking point." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said it like a mother whose heart was done breaking. For a moment, her confidence cracked. Her lips trembled. But instead of shame, she let rage take over. She threw her phone on the couch and shouted, "You're not my mother. Stop pretending like you can control me." The baby started crying upstairs, louder and louder, as if sensing the storm brewing below. I turned to go to him, but Jasmine stepped in front of me. "Don't you dare touch my son." Something in me snapped. All the insults, the cold shoulders, the nights she locked me out of my own kitchen, it all came flooding back. "That's my grandson," I said through gritted teeth. "And if you won't be a mother to him, I will." That's when she did it. Her hand came flying out of nowhere. The slap landed across my face so hard it echoed in the room. Everything went silent. Even the baby stopped crying for a second, like the whole house was holding its breath. I touched my cheek, it was burning. My knees shook, but I didn't fall. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." She blinked, her chest heaving, maybe realizing what she'd done. "You pushed me to it," she whispered, her voice cracking. I didn't answer. I walked past her and climbed those stairs one slow, painful step at a time. Each step felt like walking away from everything I had tried to hold together. When I reached the baby's room, I saw little Malik in his crib, tears on his tiny cheeks. I picked him up, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Don't worry, baby. Grandma's here." I sat in that rocking chair for hours, rocking him to sleep, even after his breathing slowed and his little hand rested on my chest. Downstairs, I could hear her pacing, opening cabinets, slamming things shut. But I stayed right there, praying. By morning, my cheek had turned purple, but my mind was clear. When my son came home later that day, I told him everything, every insult, every cruel word, and finally, what she had done. He didn't speak for a while. Then he said quietly, "Mama, I'll handle this." That was the first time in years I saw guilt in his eyes, the kind that said he finally saw what I had been living through. I didn't know what handle this meant, but I knew something was about to change. As he walked out of the room, I whispered a prayer under my breath. Not for revenge, but for strength, because whatever came next, I knew there was no turning back. And downstairs, Jasmine was about to face the storm she created. The next morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. The air was heavy, thick with tension that clung to the walls. I could hear Malik babbling softly in his crib upstairs, innocent and unaware of the war quietly waiting to erupt below. My son, Darius, stood in the living room, still in his work uniform. His face looked like stone, no emotion, no softness, just tight jaws and eyes that burned with quiet fury. Jasmine sat on the couch, one leg crossed over the other, trying to look calm, but her fingers betrayed her, tapping nervously against her thigh. I stayed by the doorway, clutching my rosary, praying silently. Darius spoke first, voice low but cold. "Mama told me what happened last night." Jasmine rolled her eyes, pretending to laugh. "Oh, so now we're running to Mama for every little argument. You know how she exaggerates." He didn't move. Didn't blink. "She doesn't exaggerate bruises, Jasmine." Her smirk faded. He stepped closer. "Did you put your hands on my mother?" Jasmine stood up quickly. "She provoked me. She's always judging me, always talking down to me in front of Malik. You know how she is." "She's my mother," Darius snapped, his voice rising for the first time. "She raised me with nothing but love, Jasmine. You don't talk to her that way, and you sure as hell don't touch her." Jasmine folded her arms. "So what now, you're gonna throw me out? Over her? The woman who can't stop controlling your life?" He took a step forward, and his voice dropped low, the kind of low that makes the room freeze. "Don't twist this. This isn't about control. This is about respect, something you clearly forgot how to give." I could feel my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to stop him, to keep peace. But another part, the tired, bruised part, needed to see him stand up for what was right. Jasmine's voice broke into a high-pitched shout. "You don't even know what it's like living here. She watches my every move, she tells me how to raise my son, That's our son," Darius cut her off, his tone sharp. "And she only stepped in because you stopped caring. You come home drunk, you leave Malik crying, you talk to my mother like she's your servant." Jasmine's mask cracked. Her eyes welled up, but the anger came right back. "You're choosing her over me. I knew this would happen. You've always been a mama's boy." I felt my throat tighten, tears slipping down before I could stop them. Darius turned his head slightly. "You're right. I am a mama's boy. Because that woman over there," he pointed toward me, "never raised her hand to me, never disrespected me, and never abandoned this home. You could learn from her." Jasmine's jaw dropped. "So that's it. You're throwing me out." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "No. I'm giving you a choice." She looked at him, eyes wide and suspicious. "A choice?" "Yes," he said. "You either get help, real help, for your anger, your drinking, and whatever's eating you inside, or you pack your things and leave. Because I won't let Malik grow up in a home full of hate." The room went quiet. All I could hear was the ticking of the old wall clock. Jasmine's lips trembled. For a second, she looked like the scared young woman I once welcomed with open arms. But pride is a heavy thing. She straightened her shoulders and said bitterly, "You're unbelievable. After everything I gave up for this family, this is how you repay me." She stormed toward the stairs, muttering curses under her breath. Darius called after her, "You've got until tonight. Decide what kind of mother you want to be." Then he turned toward me. His voice softened, but his eyes were tired. "Mama, I'm sorry." I shook my head, wiping my cheek. "You don't apologize for her mistakes, baby. You just do right by that child." He nodded slowly, walked over, and hugged me, a long, silent hug that said more than words ever could. When he pulled back, he looked up toward the stairs. "I'll take care of it. You rest." The rest of the day passed like a slow storm. I stayed upstairs with Malik, playing lullabies and whispering prayers. I could hear muffled arguments downstairs, doors opening, drawers slamming, Jasmine crying and yelling between bursts of silence. As evening crept in, I heard the front door open. Footsteps. Then another slam. Silence. When I walked downstairs, the living room looked empty, like a scene after a storm. Jasmine's purse, her clothes, her shoes, all gone. Darius sat on the couch, head in his hands. "She left," he said quietly. Didn't say a word. I looked around, the emptiness echoing in my chest. Relief and sadness mixed together like oil and water. "Where will she go?" I asked softly. He shook his head. "I don't know. I just know Malik deserves peace." For the first time in months, the house was still. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the soft sound of Malik giggling upstairs. I walked over to the window, watching the night settle in, and whispered to myself, sometimes peace doesn't come easy. Sometimes it comes after you've lost everything you tried to protect. And deep down, I knew, even though the storm had passed, the damage would take time to heal. But maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something better. You know, peace don't sound the same after a storm. It's quieter, but heavier too. Every corner of my house reminded me of something. The yelling, the crying, the begging, the silence that followed when Jasmine walked out that door. Weeks passed. The world kept spinning, but inside me, something had stopped. I'd wake up early, sit on the porch with my cup of coffee, and just listen. No footsteps rushing down the stairs, no arguments brewing before breakfast. Just me, the wind, and that old creaking chair that had been with me longer than most people had. Darius was different now. I could see the guilt in his eyes every time he looked at me. He'd try to smile, try to joke, but that pain, oh, it was sitting right there behind his grin. I didn't push him. Some lessons in life, you can't rush. They have to hurt before they heal. One morning, he came out to the porch, Malik on his hip, both still in pajamas. "Mema," he said softly, "I still can't forgive myself. I let it go too far." I looked at him and smiled, touching his hand. "Baby, forgiveness don't erase what happened. It just stops it from controlling you. You learned. And that's all a mother ever wants." He nodded, tears welling up. Malik reached out and grabbed my rosary, his tiny fingers curling around it like he understood something deeper than either of us. I took a deep breath, feeling that lump in my throat again. You know, I used to think love could fix anything. But love without respect, it's poison. It eats you slow, until you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror. Darius listened quietly. The morning light hit his face, and for the first time, I saw peace, not all the way, but just enough to give me hope. "I don't hate her," I said, more to myself than to him. "Hate's too heavy to carry. But I'll never let anyone take my peace again, not even family. Respect, that's the foundation. Without it, a home ain't nothing but walls and noise." He nodded again, eyes glistening. "You were right all along, Mama." I chuckled softly. "Took you long enough to see it." We both laughed a little, the kind of laugh that comes after crying too long. Later that week, I walked through the house, room by room. I picked up Malik's toys, dusted off the framed pictures, and stood in front of one photo in particular, my wedding day. I was young, full of dreams, full of fight. My late husband, Henry, had his arm around me, smiling wide like the world was ours. I whispered, We did good, Henry. We raised a good man. He just got lost for a while. Outside, I could hear Darius teaching Malik how to ride his tricycle on the sidewalk. Every now and then, Malik's laughter filled the air, sweet, unbothered, full of life. I smiled, tears burning behind my eyes. That laughter was proof that even after betrayal, after heartbreak, life finds a way to grow again. That night, I sat by my window, the same one I used to cry under when things got bad. I looked up at the stars and thought about everything that had happened. The slap, the shouting, the betrayal, the loneliness. And then, the healing. I whispered a prayer. Lord, thank you for showing me that peace ain't about who stays. It's about who refuses to lose themselves in the chaos. The next morning, I went to church. My friends hugged me tight, some of them already knowing the story. Small towns got a way of spreading pain faster than truth. But I held my head high. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a survivor who'd finally reclaimed her home. After the service, one of the younger women came up to me, tears in her eyes. Miss Loretta, I heard what happened, and I just want to say, you're stronger than I could ever be. I took her hands gently. Baby, strength don't show up all at once. It shows up the day you stop letting folks walk all over your kindness. She nodded, wiping her eyes. As I walked out of that church, sunlight hit my face just right, warm, forgiving, free. And that's when I knew, the storm was over. Not because everything was perfect, but because I'd finally learned my lesson. You can love people with all your heart, but if they don't respect you, that love turns hollow. You can forgive them, but that don't mean you let them back in to break you again. And sometimes, the hardest thing you'll ever do is walk away, not in anger, but in peace. Because peace is the loudest victory there is. I turned back to look at my home, the place that once held pain now breathing easy again. The wind whispered through the trees, and it felt like the world was saying, "You did it, Loretta." And I whispered back, smiling, "Yes, I did." If you're still listening right now, take it from me. Set your boundaries early. Don't confuse silence with peace or loyalty with submission. And if someone you love ever makes you feel small in your own home, remember this, you don't owe them your keys, your tears, or your peace. You owe yourself respect. Because when all is said and done, that's the foundation no storm can ever wash away.